Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Visser, and in this podcast, I will take you on a journey through the wilderness of scientific research and experiential knowledge. Together, we will clear a path to optimizing health, well-being, and longevity. I am a former Minister of Health and Sports with a PhD in medical sciences, a published researcher in the fields of obesity, lifestyle medicine, and longevity. I started my career path over 3 decades ago as a doctor of chiropractic. I'm excited to share my methods, know-how, and experience with you. So please join me on the Visser podcast. Welcome to the Visser podcast. Today, we'll be discussing exercise differentiation and the types of exercising we need to be doing on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So, okay, continuing. So, how do we breathe? That's another thing when we're starting out. How do we breathe when we're doing exercises? If we would like to breathe on the end of the end of the push or the end of the exertion. We would like to exhale. Inhale before we start the exercise. And if we're really efficient, we can kind of breathe every other. But initially, I want you to focus on breathing through your nose whenever possible. If it gets to the intensity of where it needs to go, you might not, and that's okay. But whenever you can, bring it back to your nose, because that affects the vagus nerve and gets your heart rate down, gets everything down as quick as possible. So we'll go over that also and a bit later. So I really want you with the breathing to work with your breath. In between sets, I want you to think about breathing. Think how you're breathing. I want you to nose breathe as much as you can. And I want you to breathe in a certain, you can do a box type breathing where you're inhaling, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, and so it's like a box. You're exhaling as long as you're holding, and you're inhaling as long as you're holding again. And that's a good thing to do, to practice your breath, to make sure you're ready for the next exercise. And at the end of your workout, you should have a 5-minute downturn session. And that means, this is for the neuroplasticities. This is so that your whole system and your brains basically absorb what you've done and process what you've done. And basically, you're giving your body a chance to take those adaptations and move forward on it and improve. So you need to do 5 minutes, eyes closed, meaning towel up your eyes, sit somewhere, lay somewhere, and do the breathing. And the easiest breathing to do here is just one inhale compared to 2 exhales. So you're exhaling twice as long as you're inhaling. Or you can do the box again and just really lay there in silence, eyes closed. I need darkness, and do this for 5 minutes. Give me 3 minutes if you can't do 5. But do it after every exercise. After every training, not every exercise, every training. Okay, so when we go into endurance, now we're going to go into endurance. So you want to do the hypertrophy training 50 minutes a day, starting with 3 times a week. That's your minimum. Bump it up to 4 times a week, and then see how you feel. The endurance part, there's 4 types of endurance. And most people kind of go and say, I'm going to start endurance training, so let me go start running or box jumping. Well, this eccentric running um, has 100 times more landing uh, than than what you're used to. And the landing is going to cause you to have shin splints. It's going to cause you to have pain, sore over time, and then you're not going to be able to do it. So don't start there. I mean, if you really want to run, start at a walk, start getting your body ready for the run, do some other stuff before you start running. Don't just go and say, okay, I'm going to start running today, let's run, because you're going to have pain and it's going to hamper your progress. Don't do jumping and box landing jumps. It's 10 times, your weight load when you're landing. This is also going to damage you if you start that initially. So wait, train. If you want to do these two things, that's going to be your modus. Train to get to do them. So you need a whole training kind of build up. And then also look at form, your running form, your running shoes, everything that goes with it so that you're not causing any injuries. Okay, so there's much easier ways of doing it. Concentric exercises like biking, swimming, pushing the sled, with minimum landing impact. These are amazing exercises, get you into shape without, the damage that you can do if you just start initially with the run, the jumps, and all that stuff. So look at those to start with. Progress your volume slowly. You got the farmer's carry plank. You can do 10 minutes treadmill, 10 minutes a bike, 10 minutes a row. And in this, if we're looking at health, we're looking at, again, longevity, we're looking at well-being, we want to do zone two training. And what is zone 2 training? Zone 2 training is where we're gearing our body to go into lipolysis. This is a specific level that we can hold for an hour. I'm going to suggest do it 40 minutes. I think the sweet spot is 150 to 180 minutes a week, so you can split that up the way you want. The zone 2 training is your base training. This is where you're going to improve your overall health, your overall mitochondria. So the mitochondria, we'll talk about this too. The mitochondria is where ATP gets produced, and this is where you have the Krebs cycle. You have all these cycles that that happen when we're doing movement and exercise. So for this particular zone 2 is basically 70 to 75% of your max heart rate. Or if we're looking, you can measure it specifically. You can do a VO2 max and look at, and they can give you the numbers of what your zone 2 will be. So if you look at your zone 2, it's basically, the simplest way to put it is brisk walking, where you can still kind of hold a conversation, not totally, but you can, if you're on the phone or you're talking, they'll know you're exercising while you're talking to them, but you can still talk. If you can't talk and you're just like, blowing out, you've gone over. Okay, so then you're in glycolysis. No bueno for here. We need to stay in lipolysis. Okay, we need to stay where we're moving energy out of adipose tissue. So we need to stay in this zone. And so the zone 2 really gets us to get our endurance base much better and improved. So you're going to see a lot of athletes, distance athletes, endurance athletes. This is where they spend their most time, is zone 2. This is where they're doing their volume work, is zone 2. There's only a couple times a week where they'll like peak it and just go full out. But that's not where they train. If you would train full out, you'd never improve. The zone 2 is where you do your improvement. And for us, with the science we have on this now, this is the zone we want to be at. Okay? For the maximum health improvements. So, and it's an easy zone. It's what you can do. You know, you need to be able to break a sweat. You need to really feel it, but you need to be able to hold it. Be able to hold it for 40 minutes or 50 minutes. Right? You're going to be exhausted, but you can hold it, and it's a steady state. So, listen to me. The zone two is a steady state. It's not like you're going to go faster or go up a hill, down a hill. No, it needs to be a steady state. So you need to really be looking at your treadmill. You need to be looking at, you know, your rowing machine. You need to be looking at your cycling and looking that you're doing, you know, if your steady state, if your zone two is 120 watts, you need to keep it at 120 watts and just stay there. You can go up a little, go up down, but you can't jump it to 140 and then come back down to 105, and that's not going to do it. You're going to need to keep that steady state. So the key is, and once you know, this is the thing. What I tell people is, start in the gym with this. Look at your, you know, figure out what your zone two is, and you can do it by a heart rate monitor, so that you know that you're at 70 to 75% of your heart rate. But you know, the easiest way is to look at your breathing and your intensity and measure that and say, okay, I can still kind of talk, almost, you know, but I can hold this. This I can do for a long time. It's stressing me. It's not like I'm walking shopping. That's not zone two. Okay, then you drop too low. I mean, your heart rate needs to be going. Everything needs to be, you know, on tilt, but you need to be able to say, okay, this I can hold. And so, and that will improve too with time. So you'll be able to move that needle up. But I need you to be able to do this. And the good way to do it is in the gym, to really look at your numbers and make sure, like, you know, if you figured out that your zone two is at 100, like I said before, 120 watts, that you're keeping that 120 watts, boom, while you're doing the exercise. And then after a while, you'll get used to feeling what that feels like, and you can just go walk and keep it, because you'll know mentally, okay, this is where I need to be breathing, this is the speed, and I need to be consistent in this. So no hills, no declines, none of that stuff. It needs to be as consistent as possible for the time you're doing it. And like I said, figure out to do this 150 to 180 minutes a week. It doesn't really matter when you do it, kind of. I say kind of. You can do it separate from your weight training, or you can do it after your weight training. I don't like it before the weight training, just because with your hypertrophy training, with your resistance training, I need you to be there full throttle, and you need to be there with all your energy. You can't have, you know, I can't have you deplete energy before you start your weight training now. And your weight training requires all your energy. With zone two training, it doesn't require all your energy because you're at subpar. You're keeping it right there where it's uncomfortable, but not super uncomfortable for a long time. So that doesn't require full energy explosion. So always do it after, or separately, or on your, you know, and hit one up on your non-workout day. And this is another reason. I mean, it doesn't. There's, you know, in the past, there was taught, and I thought the same, that there was going to be interference. There's not much interference at this level. If you're doing real, like, distance work, if you're really working on, you know, endurance training, yeah, then there's going to be interference with your training. And the interference works this way. It doesn't work both ways. Okay, so studies show that if you're an endurance athlete, now we're talking athlete status. So if you're an endurance athlete and you do resistance training, it actually helps. Doesn't matter before or after, doesn't matter. Usually you're going to do it before, but you can do it after or separate. It's going to help you. If you're a resistance or weight training athlete or strength athlete and you do real distance work, it's going to interfere. And real distance work is not, you know, doing the zone two. It's really taking it beyond that. It's going to interfere. And the reason is this. The mechanism for that is and we believe mTOR synthesis. So with strength training, and we talked about this before, you got lysine, you got isolysine, you got valine. These are critical for muscle growth and release. Well, mTOR, when that happens, mTOR goes up. Boom. Okay, and mTOR is needed to activate all these systems when you're doing that kind of work. While when you're doing endurance training, you get an increase of AMPK. Okay, and that's really going to, doing the mitochondrial biogenesis. And that activates the TSC2. And the TSC2, which we know, will inhibit mTOR. So the pathway is with strength training or with hypertrophy training, mTOR goes up. If then you do distance work or long distance work, what happens is you're activating AMPK, that then activates the TSC2, and that deactivates the mTOR, which drops it down. Less muscle gains, less power gains. So it does work in that direction. The other direction, if you're actually doing distance work all the time, you're gonna need to watch that you don't lose too much strength. So strength training added to the distance work only makes your distance work better, makes you stronger, makes you, a more balanced athlete. So that's the long and short of that. And that's why we say, okay, just to be safe, I want your weight training first. I want, afterwards or on separate occasions or separate days, I want you to do your zone 2 training. Now, I'll add something to the zone 2 training. And that is, I want once a week you to do HIIT, the HIIT training. And that is, it could be sprints. It could be sprints on your bicycle. And what I want you to do is like 30 seconds, full out, like your heart's coming out of your chest. And then rests, 2 minutes. Nasal breathing, bring that heart rate back down to stable, normal. And then do it again. Do it 4 times, 3 or 4 times. This is gonna just give you that boost. This is gonna basically get your endurance combined with, of course, the zone 2 training. It's gonna improve your endurance drastically. The other thing you can switch it with is the longer, and this is really for endurance work. If you want to get more into endurance, you say, I'm really lagging in endurance. What else can I do? Well, the other thing you can switch it to is that you do once a week sessions of 1 kilometer sprints as fast as you can go. Okay, so you're doing a 1 kilometer sprint. You're waiting 4 minutes. You're doing it again. You're waiting 4 minutes. You basically, you're waiting not 4 minutes. The distance you run, let's say you're running 800 meters or you're running 1,000 meters, full out. This is full out, what you can handle, full out. You time it. Was it 6 minutes? Was it 8 minutes? I want you to rest that same amount of time and then hit it again. Do that 4 times. Make sure you warm up before. So it's a total of a 20-minute workout session. I mean, it's short. You're in there, you're out of there. And it just boosts your endurance phenomenally. So these are the things you can do to really, really do that. And you can also say, if you're a cyclist or you have club rides or whatever, you say, okay, then once a week when I want to do that boost, I'll do a club ride, because then you go bananas. Or I can do a mountain bike ride with my buddies and go bananas. You'll get to that level too. So switch it up in that sense, but don't do that every day. Okay? So what are we looking at? And I want to explain zone 2 cardio training a little bit. I can go a little bit deeper so you really have a good understanding of why it's so important. So we need to be at an intensity where we're stressing the mitochondria and the oxidative capacity. We're recruiting type 1 muscle fibers here, slow twitching, and we're mobilizing the most amount of fat through lipolysis and oxidation. from the inside of the mitochondria to stimulate the burn and the glucose within the mitochondria. So really, we're activating the number one or type 1 muscle fibers, slow twitch. And that's why we're keeping it there with the duration. We're basically making our mitochondria function better. And with the mitochondria functioning better, we got a much better cardiovascular, creating a much better cardiovascular, and stronger cardiovascular system. So this is the importance. If you want to look at some amazing work by George Brooks, who's a well-known scientist in this space, you know, the VO2 max, VCO2, if you want to go deeper into this. But really what we're trying to do is stimulate mitochondrial function. This is what creates ATP in the body. This is the pathways that make us, you know, more efficient as human beings. We have better engines, we're creating bigger engines. And this is what we're doing. So we're really looking, when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, what are the best things we can do to move the parameters of health, well-being, and longevity the most? And this is where we're at. So what is your basis? Your basis is get off the couch, start walking. Second base would be, let's get some, you know, hypertrophy training, go to the gym 3 times a week as a minimum. Combine that with, you know, the zone 2 training, which is easy to do 4 times a week, you know, and you can combine it, do it after your workouts. And we're looking at what, 50 minutes to the gym, 45 minutes, 40 minutes in your zone 2. And you're starting to build an amazing base. This is the base. And then incorporate once a week your HIIT. That's your base. And then you can move that up. You know, you can move your trainings up. You can move, you know, you can start doing the 1 kilometer sprints included with your training, and move that up. And really find something you really like in a sport. Start doing that too. So when we're looking at zone 2, we have, you know, the again, we're going to go over it, is the perceived exertion that we need to look at. And the perceived exertion is good. You know, it's like I said before, is to carry out a strained conversation. If you can't talk, you're too high up. If you talk too easy, you're in zone 1. So you need to be in zone 2. 75 to 80% of your max heart rate is your zone 2. And it's steady state cardio. So you need to start there and keep it there. This is the key of zone 2. So when, you know, when we're putting this together, we're really looking at, okay, what is the most beneficial exercise, movement that I can give you for health, wellness, and longevity? This is about where we're at. Now, do you want to incorporate stretching, yoga, Pilates? Yes, please go. But this is your basis. This needs to be your basis. Because we've seen that the needle gets pushed with strength and muscle mass. So strength and muscle mass for longevity, for healthy aging, is number 1. VO2 max is right there, up there with it. Okay, so we can have those two at a good level, at a high level. If we can improve both of those, we've got the biggest gains in our longevity and quality of life. The biggest. Thank you very much. And stay tuned. We've got much more coming. Subscribe, hit the bell notification. See you next time.